I look at people and I wonder all day, who are you and you are not the one in your way. And then I think about myself and I state, I'm a pretty boss with almost your brain waste. I'm a freak in the sheets, but I got clothes.
Okay. We did at one point and then it disappeared. Dude, I'm telling you, this is a fluster of clucks. out there.
Okay, so have we force closed the Discord app on your iPad?
Like completely closed it down?
Yeah, like force closed.
No.
Yeah, the application itself. Like you pull up all the apps and then you swipe up to close it out.
No, we left it and rejoined.
Yeah, go ahead and force close the application,
No, I
Okay,
didn't.
I see
and then
you in a minute.
and then rejoin whenever you're back. I charge for this, by the way, Tater. I'm about $27 an hour. I'm just kidding. Dude, I found this like sweet playlist of nice soft like Buddha therapy music, and it's just got me in the vibe right now.
All right, go ahead and mute your mics, please.
Okay.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. To support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies. Foreign and domestic. And to bear true faith. And allegiance to the same. That I will obey. The orders of. The President of the United States. And the orders of. Those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and borne by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my Veterans Day special for Tater-Talks, where mental health, spirituality, and gaming all coexist for one full purpose. As always, it is me, your host, Tater-Talks. Alongside, I'm joined today with a few very, very important guests today. I'm very honored to be hosting these people. Today, like I said, this is our Veterans Day. We're going to be talking about many things, and I'm going to introduce you guys to a couple of military people that I want to pay homage to. To start off here, very, very long friend of mine. Me and him, we've been gaming for many, many years. We originally met each other from World of Warcraft, just raiding alongside of random hardcore content. And as over the years, we got to know each other's story, and he advised me. I think we actually just met as he was processing out of the Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to pay homage and introduce to Senior Air Force Airman Randall Riley. What's up, brother? How you doing? I can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself.
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I definitely am. I'm excited to do this episode with you, man. I've been planning for this. Like I said, I've been planning for like a month and a half on this. And I remember when I first thought of it, I was like, I've got to pull him in here first off. So I'm definitely glad to have you, man. I'm definitely glad to be able to, this evening, you and I are going to share some of your experiences. We're going to talk about a lot of just what's been going on about today's the purpose of today's episode. So I'm very honored to have you here specifically today, man. So thank you for taking the time out of your evening to come out and talk with all of us this evening. Okay.
Absolutely. The honor is mine as well. Thank you.
Yeah, man. For my next guest, this dude, man, when you talk about a lighthouse calling out into the darkness, when Sean passed away back in March, it took me 2 weeks before I decided to pick up any video gaming, listen to music, maybe have a decent meal instead of, Little Debbie cakes in the back corner, And I remember one night I told myself I need to play a video game. I need to start morning and I need to get back to myself. Sure enough, I booted up Call of Duty like any normal dude, and I came across a wonderful community. And out of that community, I met Private First Class Yoder. How you doing, buddy?
Doing wonderful, my friend. Thanks for having me here. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, man. This dude, I remember when I logged in to Call of Duty, everybody was, just asking, hey man, how you doing? And I remember the first thing out of my mouth was, yeah, I'm not doing too well. 2 weeks ago, my brother passed away and I'm moving here. So ever since then, we have a community that I play with that has a bunch of vets in it. We all kind of talk to each other about different issues in life, and I'm able to provide some perspective from my point of view for them. And I'm very honored to have Yoder here today. So thank you once again to you personally for your service, as well as taking the time out of your evening to speak with me, okay?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's just a privilege to be here and be able to help out.
Nah, I got you, man. I got you. And for our final people, when you ask God himself to show you a sign, unlike no other, to prove that he is real, I had a wonderful, wonderful moment to finally come to realization and met this wonderful lady when I went to my camp in Camp Yeshua. Me and her, we shared stories about my past relationships. We shared stories about what is God exactly calling you to do? And when you start to ask so many questions on, well, why does God want me to do it? Is God there for me? Is God really backing me up? This woman, she really took the plate and she talked to me every single time we had a moment to kind of breathe, because, you know, when you're at camp, you got like 350 kids you got to work with. And then she also advised me that her husband served in the military as well. So I would like to formally welcome Miss Holly Smith and her husband, Sergeant Jeremiah Smith. How are you guys doing this evening?
Good. Doing good.
Thank you so much. I've definitely missed you guys. I definitely have missed you. I remember talking to you when the flood happened, and as we were leaving Camp Yeshua, we were kind of crying because everybody had to go. And, you know, what has been going on since, how's everything been since camp?
It's been good. It's been chaotic. We have a family of 10, so we are constantly busy. But it's been good. Lots of blessings, and being able to keep up some of those relationships from camp, including our relationship, has not been neglected. So I've enjoyed staying connected with you. You had a special place in my heart there, Taterbug.
I definitely appreciate you guys, and I definitely, Mr. Jeremiah, appreciate you coming, taking the time out of your evening for us to be able to talk to you as well.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate you, man. Hopefully, I've got some good questions for you guys, and we can definitely kind of reflect on not necessarily what all has happened, but how can we improve the future as far as the crisis of mental health. To kind of get into perspective of things. Sorry, I had to fix the camera here. To kind of get into perspective today, folks, today's episode is healing not just from war, but from the war of our own minds. As we talk today, I want to honor those who've served and those who are currently serving. We'll discuss the challenges of the military personnel face from not just mental health struggles, but to reintegration into civilian life. How gaming, not necessarily just gaming, but faith and community can play a big role in healing. As I said, today we'll cover mental health challenges veterans often face, how gaming can provide a comfort and connection, and we'll touch on how faith itself can be a guiding force through the tough times and when the moments that we feel we are in the darkness. To kind of start, I'd like to start by acknowledging the huge mental mental and emotional toll that military services can take. From PTSD to anxiety and depression, veterans face unique challenges that can be difficult to navigate alone. For many veterans, the hardest part isn't just what happens during their service, but also to adjust to life afterward. I haven't served in the military, but I myself grew up as a military child. I've had friends and family who have. Their stories of struggling with isolation, mental health, and finding a new purpose after service hit home for me. For those of you who have served, and I guess we'll go ahead and start off with my wonderful questions here. The way I do this is I'll open up the floor. If nobody is sure on who to speak first, I'll just call on somebody. Don't panic, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay. My first question: what has been the hardest part of transitioning from the time that you left the military? What's the hardest part about transitioning back to civilian life? If anybody wants to speak first, just go ahead and unmute yourself.
I'll take it.
Okay, go ahead.
So, for one, everyone knows in the military you have a structure. You have a grounds. You have an absolute forum of brotherhood, of family grounds. You protect one another. You are there for one another, whether it be emotionally, whether it be financially. If they need help getting something to wash their buttocks or whatever they need to do, you're going to help them do that. They need help getting their laundry done because they're exhausted because they pulled a double shift watch. You're going to do it. Like, and having that bond and then coming back home. And when I went through MEPS and my enlistment process, they told you right then and there, say goodbye to the life that you've experienced before because it will never be the same. It never will be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really pay that any mind. You're just like, whatever. I'm hard-headed. That's definitely not the truth. In regards to an aspect, yes, it is. When you are no longer in that service, you're no longer there. You no longer have that constant presence of that support system that you had. Instead, you have people out here, and unfortunately, this has happened to me, they're like, did you really serve? Did you really do what you said you did? And that's a serious accusation, okay? That's super serious. Even as a civilian, that's serious for a civilian.
100%.
And it's degrading. It's degrading to a veteran or somebody that chose selflessly to protect the ones that they love now and the ones they're going to love on down the road.
Right.
It's not just for your lifestyle now. This is your lifestyle for your children's children of their children's children.
I gotcha.
Like, this isn't just a single, they got me tomorrow. It's not the case. And I feel like a lot of veterans and a lot of people that are in service, they lose that ability to realize that there is still safety in regards to being able to express yourself. Because a lot of veterans struggle to express themselves
100%.
because of judgment, because we throw up whether that hard ass card.
Yeah.
And you don't need help. You don't need it.
Right.
You got this. And it's not like that anymore. You don't have to be that way. And gaming, as you stated, it's changed the world. And I'm going to leave it right there because I could talk about this all day long. I'm a help advocate. So,
share
an
the love.
amazing place.
You got to share the love a little bit. What about you? What about you, Randall? Go. What was your hardest adjustment coming back to civilian life?
Honestly, the first one was finding a job. If I'm being honest, I got out of the military. I worked cybersecurity, and I had a lot of education, certifications. And you walk out into the real world, I call it, outside of the umbrella of the military. And, people don't care. All they care about is how many years of experience you have, how many degrees do you have, how many hours are you able to work, how little pay are you willing to take for the job. And, my first job getting out of the military was working in Taco Bell. I went from being a cybersecurity specialist to being an assistant general manager at Taco Bell. And I don't think there's anything else in my life that has been more degrading than that. So finding a job, I think, was the first and most difficult thing I went through. The second thing is camaraderie. You do have a family of brothers and sisters when you're active duty that, even though you guys bicker when you're at work or you don't always get along, when shit hits the fan, excuse my language, they got your back and they're going to take care of you and you're going to take care of them. And, out here in the civilian sector, people don't really think like that much, It's every man for himself, and I think that's difficult, workplaces, they only care about the income that their company's making. They don't really care. They say they care that you have a family and that family matters, but at the end of the day, oh, hey, you got to take off because your kid's sick, or whatever. It gets difficult. And I just miss the aspect where sometimes it's, it is family first. You got to have a good home mind to be able to show to work and give 100% and give it a good 100% at the work mind.
Right.
So, those are my two biggest, I would say, issues when it comes to transitioning.
I gotcha. And Jeremiah, I'll go ahead and point the direction at you, brother. What would you say was the hardest transition from military life into civilian life?
Responsibility.
Okay.
Because everything hits you all at once, everything in life. It's a lot easier to be in the military versus civilian life because the only thing you have to worry about is your job and the person next to you. And probably the other thing too is you're just your brothers, missing your boys.
Missing your.
That was like the hardest part.
I gotcha. 100%. I remember. So my stepfather at the time we got out of Alaska was our very last station before he officially retired, and it's kind of crazy how quick the process is as far as so we processed out of Army. From the time that they said, you don't have to renew your contract unless you want to, it was like 3 weeks later, we instantly had everything paid for, cycled out, packed up the house and everything. And we decided to leave Alaska and go to a little town called Worcester, Ohio. And so we just kind of replanted there because that's where a lot of my stepfather's family is from, a lot of the Wayne County area up there. And it was very, very difficult because, Randall, you talked about getting a job. It was very debilitating. I wouldn't say debilitating. It was more like really discouraging to, at my father's rank, he was classified as a E6, I think. And E6 housing was like really, really big. You got the big houses, you got 2 living rooms, a massive kitchen, 5 bedrooms. You had the park right down the road. And then you transition from no longer there to the only thing you can really afford is maybe 800 square feet for a group of 5 people. Because rent, and then during the transition process of you're still waiting for your VA pension to kick in. And that can take anywhere between, it could take as little as 3 weeks. It could take as much as three months. Even at times, even if there's an appeal, it can take upwards of 3 years. It's kind of crazy. And so watching my father struggle to get a job and to be able to provide for the family, and then also not adjusting to school life outside of military school, it just kind of hits you all at once. And so my father didn't really talk about it too much, but I could see it. I could see the reaction, as well as though it was also very triggering in the household to have arguments because we no longer had the backing of the military, essentially, like we used to. We no longer had, the housing authority. We no longer had a B&H account where they paid for everything. We didn't have a PX no more. Freak out, so I can, not saying I can't relate to y'all, but from the outside, from the family portion, I can relate to a certain extent. Let's see here. So I always pride myself as my coping skill of gaming. As many of you, as everybody knows, it's a huge part of my life. And for veterans, as we see here today, it can be a lifeline. It provides a way to reconnect with friends, manage stress, and even provide a sense of purpose. We've seen gaming communities emerge across the web specifically for veterans, providing a safe place to share experiences, blow off steam, and build camaraderie, and sometimes have a personal chat with the community whenever they feel like they really need that support. I personally have witnessed friends find solace in gaming after their service, especially when communities where they were surrounded by others who understand what they've been through. Jeremiah, what exactly would you say you used as a coping skill as you left the military?
Which time?
Oh, okay.
In the beginning, crawled in a bottle.
Okay.
Lived there for a while. But then after that, I really wouldn't say too much of gaming, I guess, because
right.
I've tried it. I get mad. Yeah. I'm one of the Twitters that you guys make fun of. Because I have like 10-year-old kids sitting there talking trash to me. And I was like, man, I'm going to come to your house and
I'm trying to yank the cord a couple times. We're not.
Dude, I'm going to grab you out of your to death with your own controller. That's.
Yeah.
But I do not online gaming because I get in trouble. But I do a lot of games and stuff like that on my iPad and strategy games. Or when I did play Xbox, it was played a lot of Fallout, like the Fallout 4.
Okay.
And,
okay.
I can't. State of Decay.
Okay. I know what you're talking about.
Kind of get lost in those games. So it's just something to occupy myself. Because if I'm occupied myself with that, I'm not thinking about other things. So.
And as a wife, that was hard at first because I go from, having him gone all the time to crawling into the bottle to being on the iPad or the Xbox or the PlayStation or whatever it was. It was hard to navigate that from the spouse side because, I feel like I had given up some things too. And now that I had him, I wanted that time. I wanted that relationship. But I had to also respect that that was a need that he had that was being filled in that season by said device, whether it be the alcohol or the gaming system. And we had to learn how to navigate that together. And that took some time and some figuring out.
No, 100%.
Can I caveat on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I had a conversation with my wife just yesterday, I think it was, or the day before. So as he explained, me and Tater play World of Warcraft together, and we run a guild in that game. And I have a baby on the way that's supposedly due next week, even though she's showing no signs of coming out. But my wife always says, I think you dive into that game because it's the one location that you have total control over what you do. And it kind of hit home a little bit because, in the military, you don't really have control, but you don't have to think either. You just do. You're told to do something, you do it. When you come outside of the military, you have no control over anything. Everything's about what can you get done in this amount of time. The days go by so fast that, I used to dread going to work because the days would go by really, really slow. And now I feel like I go to work, I blink and the day's over, then the week's over and nothing has gotten done. So I feel like, gaming can be one of those locations where people feel like they have control. And that's why, people dive into that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
And I think season we had to compromise even. So like he found Red Dead Redemption. And I loved it. I didn't play because it's just not my personality. I don't game. But I loved watching him.
Yeah, I forgot that one.
And we would do that for hours together. Like I would pop popcorn and just sit there and watch him play. And that was our compromise because that part was entertaining to me because he's enjoying himself. I'm enjoying watching it. And that was how we started to figure out how to balance it.
No, 100%. And I do want it to make it be. It's okay for you to say that, hey, man, I struggled with the bottom of the bottle. Please don't be discouraged to share anything like that because that is the thing that, with you saying that acknowledges that it is an issue. So please don't be discouraged to bring that up, man. I applaud you for admitting to that. People have their vices. People have their vices, especially coming from the things that you have witnessed. And I hate to say that it's only normal, but that's where it's coming from. Yoder, what about you, man?
So, I took a general discharge when I left the military.
Okay.
It was either that or fight for my disability, which my injury was pretty severe. I mean, I had 375 pounds crushed the bottom left side of my spine, busting my sciatic nerve to wrap around my spine. I was paralyzed for a hot minute.
Okay.
I had to get my muscles strong enough to pact my back in a certain way just so I was able to get feeling back into my feet and that happened at my last week of basic. Like I was in service while I was finishing college, of course, but I'd already enlisted. I already went to MEPS. I'd already done my my thing. And I was in there. I'd witnessed some crazy things, even on home soil. Crazy things.
Right.
And that's not at my allegiance to dispose of.
No, I gotcha.
Other people were involved in that, and I just don't feel like it's respectful. Like, I didn't want to experience what I experienced, and I never want it on another soul. Okay, ever.
Right.
None of that stuff. So, gaming literally changed my life. I'd lost faith after that, and after going and my injury coming back tenfold, and hitting me after, 7, 8, 9 years of continued labor that I'd worked, paid my taxes, voted, done my bit, never asked for any assistance or anything like that. And then I finally went back, and, the gaming community that I was a part of, they're like, no, you're entitled to this. This is something you deserve. There's no reason for you to shun yourself away from, they gave me my courage.
Right.
You feel a sense of lack thereof. Implorability is the best word that I can say, because I don't empower myself. I shut myself down because I don't feel like I've done enough like this person has, or I don't feel like I've done enough as my relatives have, but it was ripped away from me. I have no choice.
No, I understand.
And gaming helped me escape, man, because I lost all faith in humanity. I lost faith in the next person, because coming out of state's custody and knowing the military was the only family forum that I had, that introduced me to what family was. Somebody to have my back when I couldn't scratch my own.
I
Somebody
gotcha.
to carry me 6.5 miles when I got my injury, And it's wild. My wife says the same thing. She said, I've seen such a difference in change since you found something to put your passion towards. And now I create the possibility for people to express themselves in gaming. I create people's dreams of getting out there and expressing themselves in streaming. I help them achieve dreams that they didn't think was possible, or that reassure them that there are people out there, that you are safe to express yourself, from whether it be reaching at the bottom of the bottle, or taking your last sniff, whatever it may be. I implore the fact that you need to express yourself.
Right.
And if I wouldn't have expressed myself, and my wife do it while I was gone on my stream about all the problems that I'm really facing, and express them, it would have never been heard.
Right.
I would have never had these stubborn people that I deal with on a 27 basis that push me to be the best me that I can be, and to not back down, that they're still here for me, and all these veterans are here for me, and they love me. They love what I do. They love what I've created, and it's been out of pure honesty and passion.
100%. So, like I said, I can definitely understand where we're coming from on the different struggles, as well as the you going over what you yourself are using to cope. My next question for you guys: what are some misconceptions about military mental health that you wish civilians actually understood? Anybody? You know what? We'll go with Randall for this one.
So this is a tough one for me. I'm going to start off by giving a little backstory, just
Okay.
so my explanation makes sense.
Go ahead, man.
So, I was initially stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. I was there for the first 3.5 years of my contract. My ex-wife got pregnant with my 5-year-old while we were there, and right towards the end, I had cross-trained over to cybersecurity, and we got orders to go to MacDill Air Force Base in Florida. Once we got down there, our relationship was not doing super healthy. We had a lot of problems, not communicating. Honestly, just a lot of distancing. And with a newborn, that becomes very, very toxic because neither one of you are wanting to be involved. You both have to take care of a child. Push comes to shove, we ended up getting divorced right after COVID started letting up. And to go through a divorce, the only family outside of the military that you have leaving the state, your child leaving the state, puts a lot of strain on, you know, the mentality of who you are, what you are capable of. And that's just one scenario of military personnel that happens. You know, there are combat veterans that have seen stuff that I can't even imagine. You know, there's events that happen outside of the day-to-day workspace for veterans that we don't get to see. So when you come over to the civilian aspect, people do not care about how you feel, what you've been through. And I wish that they could just spend a week in a pair of boots to understand what the strain is from the military life. They understand the discipline of what's in the military life. That way, you know, they understand where we're coming from. You know, I show up to work 30 minutes early every day. You know, I see people walk in who are 30 minutes to an hour late. And it's like, okay, well, you have a job to do. Why aren't you showing up on time? And I feel like a lot of people just don't understand, you know, the responsibilities that come with being an adult. You know, we set the standard, I feel like sometimes more so than anyone else, because we have been taught how to be, you know, wise with our time, be disciplined with what we do. And I don't think enough people in the world understand, hey, we've gone through the ringer mentally, physically, emotionally. And then we come to the civilian world looking to, you know, ride out our time, do what we need to do, support our families. You know, we've already been through the crap. You know, we've already been through the trenches. We've already been through things that the person next to you wouldn't dare raise their hand to do. And, you know, it becomes very difficult for me to have motivation to push, to work, to, you know, do my best as an individual when, you know, the person next to you is just pulling in the same amount of money you're pulling in. And, you know, they can show up late, leave work whenever they want, and don't feel like they have that responsibility. So I think, you know, I would just like for them to spend a week in boots. I know a lot of countries that are not, you know, free per se. You know, they require everyone at a certain age to join the military. You know, sometimes I'm sitting through things and I'm like, I wish we made it that way sometimes, because everyone would have a lot more discipline going into, you know, adulthood. You graduate high school, 4 years in the military, or at least go through boot camp. You know, you don't even if you can't serve because of whatever, just go through boot camp. Understand what discipline is, understand that there are responsibilities as an adult and that your actions matter and they affect the person to your left and to your right, even in the civilian world. So I just ranted a lot and I do apologize, but that's kind of like what I think.
You're fine, man. 100%. You know, I can't. Honestly, I do agree with you. There's a lot of. I don't want to necessarily say gripes, but it is one of those things of walk a mile in my shoes before you say we are not free. A lot of people that have never been overseas don't exactly understand the type of freedom that we actually have here. Whether that is political view, whether that's religious view, whether that, you know, that's the magic of America itself. Is it doesn't matter what point of view we have the freedom and our rights that you guys protected, so we could have that opinion. We could have that statue of, well, this is what I want to do, you know? So 100%, I actually, I feel, I can definitely agree with that statement. Try to walk a mile in my shoe, and then we'll talk. What about you, Mr. Jeremiah?
Probably the best one is not all wounds are visible. You can't tell just by looking at somebody what they've been through, and their military career. Yeah, somebody that got their leg blown off or half their face missing or burn or something like that, be like, yeah, that guy's been through the ringer. Versus somebody else that doesn't have those outside scars, but are more messed up. So, like that, I personally deal with a lot of people. A little bit of backstory with me. I got blown up by a suicide vehicle in Iraq in 2005, and I have scar tissue over 3/4 of my brain from the shockwave. But you look at me and could never tell that anything like that ever happened. So I have a lot of cognitive stuff. Like, I have zero short-term memory, forget all kinds of stuff and everything else. People are like, well, what's wrong with you? Kind of laugh. I'm like, I'm just stupid, or I'm just a Marine. And then usually they get that. But I don't want to tell them, be like, yeah, I have brain damage from this. Like, I don't think I have to go into my life story. It's just, yeah, just not all wounds are visible.
Well, and one of the fundamental differences from being in the military culture and coming back to the civilian culture is respect. Respect in general is a baseline in the military community. It's not a given. It's not something that you feel like you should have to ask for or expect. It's a given. It is a baseline. In the civilian world, nobody respects anybody. Nobody has empathy. Nobody cares what your day is like because they're so self-centered as a culture and as a society. And that was hard for me to see judgments passed on him and how people look at him, knowing what he sacrificed and went through, knowing what we all had to give up for a time. Not just him, but me and my children. And that was hard for me, and I'm not even military. Just to see the way veterans are treated. I mean, my dad is a Vietnam veteran. He's third generation Marine. So even for me as a child, being that military brat, we were grown up in a culture where respect was the baseline. And coming out of that, it was like, man, it was culture shock.
100%. 100%. When I definitely 100%, I mean, I agree with that too, because when we went from, military school into public school, I went to school every day, used to come into school with a collared shirt or a uniform, or if it wasn't uniforms, it was going to be a collared shirt and khaki pants, or if it wasn't khaki pants, it was dress blues. I was a part of JROTC in high school, so I was also used to wearing ACUs or BTUs. Don't get me wrong, with me being a big guy, I'm surprised they had it in my size. But hey, I digress. But when you come from the military life and you transition to public school, and then you see how bad public school life is, it does give you a step back, because you are right. You're so used to having a level of respect, and then you go out there and there's no respect regardless of whatever. You kind of do take a step back. As well as coming from what Jeremiah said, not all scars are visible. Even from the public standpoint, nobody knows exactly what you're carrying. The mental anguish, or the even the flashbacks of when you could be in the kitchen just one day, just having a cup of coffee, and then all of a sudden, even the smallest thing can trigger it. And so people, I do agree, people need to have a certain line of understanding, and as we like to say in my congregation, we like to show a little grace before we go ahead and impede on certain things. We need to have we need to have a level of understanding. So 100%, I'm loving these answers. Yoder, what about you, man? What is a misconception that you wish the public understood coming from the military perspective?
Honestly, mine kind of touches in depth with, you know, Zeph's a little bit, and yours as well. But I feel like that, you know, don't act like you understand. Coming from a civilian, don't come thinking that you know exactly what this person's going through, exactly the way to help this person. Sometimes somebody just needs an ear. If they're confident enough to confide in you and talk to you about something, don't automatically assume that you can help it. A lot of the times you can't, and it's a military person's way of just expressing, like just letting go. And if they find that faith in you, then woo to you. But I just feel like you shouldn't act like you just understand immediately. Because there's a lot of people that send to PTSD counseling. Like, I hear a lot that they just say, uh huh, uh huh, let me write this prescription for you.
No,
Their out is
100%.
their out is medication, and it's just not right. But yeah, that's my opinion on it.
No, definitely. I appreciate your response on that. Let's see here. What triggers or challenges do you face daily that remind you of your military experiences, and how do you manage them? I'm going to go with Yoder. You're going to be the first one to answer this one.
Sounds good. Okay, so recently, I've noticed that it'll be worse than other times. Uh, it's like it's a wave of its intensity. But a lot here recently, I have been able to work my way through it by streaming and having a support system. I know this sounds weird, but I had a lot of jump scare noises.
Okay,
So
go with it.
these jump scare noises, dude, there's pretty rough ones. And what they would be gifts. And sometimes I just break down and cry, and they just say, "Let it out, let it go, just let it out." And that support right there alone, uh, it has helped me tremendously, along with other affluences, but mainly that right there, having that support group back and a constant. Whenever I need somebody to talk to, somebody's there. And for me, that's hard to find people to have faith to trust in. My wife is always here, but she's busy. Got a lot on her plate. And as a man, it's hard for me to just drop everything on my wife when she has all this going on.
Mm-hmm.
I play the too tough card. So I feel like it's helped my life
No,
in a
okay.
nutshell.
Okay. Zeph, what about you, man?
I'm going to have you re-ask the question again, if you don't mind.
I got you. The question is, what triggers or challenges do you face daily that remind you of your military experiences, and how do you manage them?
So my big one is underappreciation. Um, Underappreciation in the work atmosphere. Um, Sometimes, and I have to word this very carefully, sometimes even in the home atmosphere, I feel like there's underappreciation. It's not necessarily that my wife's underappreciative of me. We're just, going through a stressful time. So, she's got a lot on her plate and it makes it difficult. And sometimes there's miscommunication, but underappreciation is my biggest trigger. When you're in the military, you get told when you do a good job. You get letters of appreciation, you get awards, medals. You achieve something, they recognize that you achieve something. I feel like I bust my rear end every day at work. And a lot of it goes unnoticed behind closed doors. I am very good at my job. I feel like I have good customer service experience. I feel like I try to answer people's questions the best I can. But, you're just in a dark corner sometimes, and, hey, well, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. And honestly, finances is another trigger. When you're in the military, you get full medical coverage. You get uh, dental, vision. If anything goes wrong, Uncle Sam's going to take care of it. Make sure you're good to go. Um, Out here in the wilderness, the bills keep racking up. You break your foot, you go into the doctor, you're paying a specialist thousands of dollars to fix that foot. In the military, you get therapy. I've been through a lot of therapy when I was in active duty, especially during the time of divorce. Here now, you're paying $75, $100 an hour plus, depending on who you want to talk to, just to be able to work through some of the things that you need. Now there are a lot of benefits as a veteran. There's a lot of outlets that you can go to that are less costing. But it's a process to get through that. I have a disability rating, so I get a paycheck every month. But everything you do with the VA, hurry up and wait. You're going to wait 6 months to hear back. And then they're going to find every reason not to do something because they don't want to pay for it. So unfortunately, that is another big stressor, is the financial aspect of it. Because, my wife doesn't have full medical coverage. She doesn't benefit from what I have access to. She can't go to the VA for anything. Only I can. Even I don't want to, but I can. So there's a lot of things that, trigger me in the aspect, when things get really tight and you're like, hey, we don't have the money to do X, Y, and Z this month because we got to pay for this. That was less of a factor when I was active duty because, like you said, housing was paid for. You got money for food every month. Like you didn't have to question if the water bill was going to get turned off or whatnot. You just went home and took a hot shower for as long as you wanted.
Right.
So, those two hit pretty hard for me. I think the last one I would say is, and I'm going to use a term here, I do apologize if it is offensive to anyone, but it's the snowflake aspect. You meet a bunch of people and they just disappear. You get real with them for 5 minutes and then they're gone. No one knows how to build genuine relationships. It's not like you're stuck in the room with the person and they have to deal with you for however long you guys are stationed together or work together. Like there is no working through stuff. If people don't agree, they're gone. They always keep their foot in the door. So they're there for as long as it benefits them. And then the moment you are no longer a benefit, you're just like wind, gone. So
Right. No, 100%. I think, I'm gonna chime in on your answer specifically because I think any of our guildies that's watching this episode can agree. But you're raid leading 100%. Whenever we're dealing with the heroic bosses or anything like that, managing 20 plus people, you're that military side of you comes out just a smidge.
Just a smidge.
So respectfully, I'm gonna call you out on that one.
That's fine. Hey, sometimes I just want people to shut up and color, as I say.
But yeah, 100%, man. And what about you, Mr. Smith? If you need me to re-ask the question, I can.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question I asked was, what triggers or what triggers or challenges do you face daily that remind you of your military experiences, and how do you manage them?
It just depends. Depends on the time of year, seasons, when things are going on. It almost seems like daily it's a different thing.
Okay.
Let's see, like I've gotten a lot better than what I used to be. Working through with the VA therapy and going through some of their can't even think what they're called. Some of their classes and stuff, how to work through stuff. But like at a time I couldn't even go to a grocery store or like Walmart or anything else like that. I just stayed home because
Crowds were
triggering. Hear a car backfire or something like that. Fireworks were very bad, and a lot of smells too. I have a smell hit me, and it changed my whole life. But I don't know. I'm a lot better now, I guess.
A daily trigger in the beginning would probably be quiet. He could not tolerate quiet. I think it's because quiet was no longer normal. Like when you're out in a combat situation and quiet's bad. You know what I mean? Something's about to go down, and it had him in a constant state of something's about to go down. I think that's one of the reasons, and because of the coping mechanism, but we have 10 kids. We don't have quiet here. He operates well in chaos mode. He does not do well on the daily in quiet. In case you can't tell from all the background noise.
No, that's fine, 100%.
Yeah, road chaos is my comfort zone.
You said chaos was your comfort zone?
Yep.
Yeah.
Controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, no. It just seemed like when everything was going wrong, and just everything, nothing was going right. That's where I shined. It almost seemed like that's when I knew what I was supposed to do. I had one objective. That was it. Get that done, and everything will be okay. Or I'll be able to get through it. So, compared to not having anything going on, it's like, what do I do now?
Yeah, it's like if there's a calm before the storm, you're anticipating the storm, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I could.
Go team.
Yeah. No, I can definitely get that. There's an essence of while everybody else is freaking out, you're the one able to actually sit there and assess the situation and sort of have a leveled head. There's been even when the hurricane kind of hit here about a month and a half ago, or yeah, just about a month and a half ago. While everybody, while all the bridges were going down, and I'm sitting over here on a life rafter, quote unquote. Everybody, we we had the 3 main bridges that connect me to town completely wiped out. Like they were gone. And so one of the things that everybody struggled with was on this side of the river, there's only maybe 2 gas stations. There's maybe like 2 or 3 Dollar Generals, and that's it. There's no Walmart. There's no, McDonald's. There's nothing. We're out here in the Hicks, and so a lot of people really struggled to find out, well, where do we go if we have cuts and scrapes? Where do we go if we need food? Where do we go if we need gas? And so I was able, once everything finally was over, I went up to the school up here and I assessed the situation with the principal, because even he was kind of at a moment of shock of where do we begin? And so I was able to assess, okay, you kind of handle waters, you handle this, wait for the paramedics to arrive, we can get a triage center set up, and it just started building from there. I could tell you by the very next morning, about a day and a half later, that entire school was fully organized and functioning as a refugee point for the entire for this side of the mountain, and it was so beautiful watching it all come together, because you had people bringing in animal feed for livestock, you had people coming in and bringing in more bottled water for people that have no water. We called. So one row that had all the clothes and the food, we just started calling that the Walmart aisle, because that's where just everything was. But yeah, to be able to assess situations and moments of chaos is definitely something I can definitely agree with you there. I want to kind of turn the page just a little bit here. Just a moment here. Thought I had this loaded up, but you have to forgive me. Okay. One problem that I feel like a lot of people, I guess, it grinds my gears. A lot of people don't understand from the public sector the mental anguish and the things that veterans and active duty people hold. And the problem that a lot of people don't really talk about as much as it should be talked about is, unfortunately, when we have a brother or sister calling out for help and they feel lost and they end up committing suicide. In 2021 alone, there were 6,392 suicide deaths among veterans alone in the United States. From the period of 2001 to 2021, the year 2018 itself saw the highest number of suicide deaths amongst veterans. And this number is slowly climbing year by year by 30%. And it's not stopping. We have people that are recovering from Operation Desert Storm. We have people that are recovering from Operation, I want to say Screaming the Eagle, or Operation Homecoming, excuse me. A lot of people fail to realize the biggest need of when somebody is crying out for help. And so my question is, what do you feel like is not being done that should be done? And I'm going to let anybody open up this one.
All right, first off, I'm going to state that I apologize that my boss called me for I was like, listen, they're gonna ask me questions and I'm not even gonna know the answer because I can't pay attention to what you're asking me. So could you repeat the question? I apologize.
Okay, so to kind of re go over, in 2021 alone, there were over 6,000 suicides that went to veterans alone, and that number is slowly growing 30% by each year. Now, all of this is according to the national. I literally had their name in my head a moment ago. The National Office of Health Statistics, excuse me. But it's like I said, it's rising 30% every single year. So my question is, what do you feel is not being done that should be done from the public aspect to prevent more from happening?
This goes back to exactly what Zeph stated. Exactly what Zeph stated. There's no longer a sense of gratification for the appreciation, or, you know, they claim a day, but whose voices are really being heard? They, I mean, that's just the cold hard truth. There's no support for us anymore when we come back. We feel like we're all lost, and if we reach out, there's going to be a judgment of, well, this is how life is. Where have you been? Like, this isn't the life that I really fought for. You know, this isn't. And at the same time, we try to be selfless in the fact of not wanting the attention. It's that we don't expect it. And call me if I'm wrong, but we do not expect that appreciation at the same time. Because they beat that out of you.
Right.
So, they turn you into a new man, somebody with the simplest little, good job, proud of you, from the, hey, what the, you know,
Yeah.
you're like, yeah. I mean, it's just the truth. Like, that's where it comes back to the fact of returning to a civilian lifestyle is so hard. Like, but once you are no longer there, it's hard for you to have that constant role of effect of a structure, a forum, what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, how to do it. You know, SOP, baby. SOP. That's all I got to say on that one. I'll move on.
I got you, man. What about you, Randall?
I think pillars of support are, the foundation of everything. You got to have strong pillars of support. When you go into the military, again, most of the time you do have a lot of support. Your family's behind you. If you're married, your spouse is behind you, your children. When you're in basic training, they teach you, I believe it's 4 pillars: physical, spiritual, emotional, and I forget the last one right off the top of my head. But you got to have all of these pillars in your life to be, intact with what's going on, to be able to handle the things that being active duty, being reserves brings into your life. And a lot of people lose some of those pillars while they're active duty. One thing, I think I sent it to you, and you'll probably touch on it a little bit later, is the military has a double divorce rate to civilians just because of the stressors that life bring in. So, twice as many military members that are married are going to get divorced compared to the civilians. So there goes part of your family support. It's gone. You're active duty, you're serving your country, and you can't even maintain that one, and then that can cause a domino effect into the other ones. Well, people who aren't strong in their faith, or who maybe don't have faith, that one's gone, or it gets rocked up. Some people, are like, God, why would you do this to me? Why am I having to go through this? What have I done wrong? And it can rock and crumble and deteriorate other pillars in your life. So when people exit the military, whether it be, they did their 20 years or they did their, 4 years, or they get medically discharged, some of these pillars are no longer intact. They don't have that support line that is required to be able to transition and maintain that transition. And sometimes they never find it again, Look at me. I got some of my support back, but I'm, 1,500 miles away from my family, like my father and my mother. My family's halfway across the country from me. I moved to a state where I could be with my kid. And when I moved here, the only person I knew was my ex-wife and my kid. I had no other support lines. Moving into a semi-new area, I'd lived nearby, but there was no support. And, it's hard to go out and just make friends in today's day and age. It's hard to go out and just, build connections that are required, because sometimes there is that moment, hey man, I'm struggling. You and I have had plenty of conversations about, I guess the innards reaching out, asking for help. Sometimes, there's some self-conflict that you just need somebody to talk to. And a lot of these people don't have it. Luckily for me, I've always been an avid gamer. I've been able to make friends online. And I think I will say it has been a huge support through a lot of the issues in my life. Being able to just hop on a computer and have somebody there. I can be like, hey, I had a crappy day. This is what happened. Even if you guys don't have a fix action for me, I think that ear that was stated earlier, having someone to just listen is what's needed, And then for people to identify, hey, there's a problem with this individual, to be able to recognize the signs of, depression, suicidal tendencies, people being able to recognize those and are equipped with the knowledge to say, hey, this doesn't look right. I think you need help. And to ask the person, hey, have you thought about committing suicide? A lot of people are scared to ask that question. It's like taboo or something like that. I'm over here like, even if someone makes a joke about, yo, I'm going to off myself, I'm going to seriously stop right there and be like, hey, man, first of all, you can't joke about that. Are you being serious?
Right.
Because, it does sometimes just start as a joke. Someone's like, it'd be better off if I just offed myself if this happened or that happened or the other. But sometimes jokes are serious thoughts that people have. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't catch on to that. And the next thing you know, there's a letter on the side of the bed and a blood stain on the wall. And unfortunately, I hate to hear it. I've had it happen with people that I knew in the military. There's always a better option, but people just don't listen. They don't look for the clues, and they don't directly state, hey, do you need help? Hey, is there something wrong? Because either they're scared to or they don't care. So
100%. And what about you, Jeremiah? What do you feel is not being done today that you feel that we in the public area should, if we're not doing it, if it's something either we're not doing or there's something that we need to be doing more?
Sometimes there's just things you can't do. Simple as that. But I guess, to be honest, this is my personal experience with it. The actual military needs to do more, instead of just brushing stuff under the rug. Kind of like with, I had 2 deployments under my belt. Went to Iraq twice, and both times coming back, it was funny because I'll probably get, probably have like people showing up, FBI kicking in my door, and like, we didn't say that, but I really don't care. But no, like, we would have our checkout to when like we'd fly in from Iraq to Camp Lejeune, And we'll first be Cherry Point, then we go to Camp Lejeune. Well, when we're doing like a mental health check or screening at the end, they go through all these lists of questions and everything about what's going on. And they literally tell you, say, look, if you answer yes to any of these questions, you will be held here for an extra 6 months for mental eval. And they said, or if you answer no to all the questions, you'll get to go home with everybody else. So, of course, everyone's going to say no, regardless if they have a problem or not, because nobody else is going to want to be there any longer than what they have to be.
So so essentially, it feels like, quote unquote, you're being held at gunpoint of don't say anything, otherwise you're stuck here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're this close to seeing your family. So
Like,
if you say yes, you have to wait another 6 months. Who's gonna say yes? You want processed out.
To go back to regular active duty, or back to your life as you knew it before a deployment. But I'd say on the civilian side, I really don't know of much on the civilian side what could be done. Just because the way I look at it is civilians have no clue or no idea of what like a lot of veterans go through and what they've been through and what they've done. I mean, heck, even sometimes veterans don't even know what other veterans have gone through. I mean, like my grandfather, he was in the Korean War, and he fought in the Korean War, and I couldn't understand what he went through. My dad and my father-in-law both were in the Vietnam War. I don't understand what they went through. And then myself being in Iraq War, they don't understand what I went through. Do you see what I mean? It's just
different campaigns,
if a different
scenarios.
If veterans can't even figure out how to help each other, I don't know how civilians are either. Because I've been in that situation where I've talked to brothers and stuff like that, and talking to them, everything sounds perfect, everything's great, and then find out a couple of days later that they took their own life, and there was no warning signs whatsoever. So I don't know. That's a pretty tough question.
No, I feel like I can. My stepfather, to this day, I feel like he struggled with a lot of things leaving the military. Unfortunately, he had his own vices. It wasn't necessarily an act of drinking or an act of drugs, but I feel like what a lot of people fail to understand is, just because they're not doing alcohol or drugs means that they're not struggling with anything. Before I go into this, let it be known, I am okay. But unfortunately, I suffered from mental and physical abuse from my stepfather. When I say physical abuse, it was not to the restraint of he would beat me or anything. But when I say mental abuse, it would be, he called me, he would call me gay consistently, all because I liked the things that my uncle liked. He would judge me for my weight because I wasn't able to do a lot of PT. It was struggling. It wasn't necessarily, there was one event where I got home from school one evening and my mother was in the hospital at the time, but he said, let's go for a walk. And so I got my shoes on and I went for a walk. Because I wasn't walking at the standard cadence of standard PT, he punished me that evening with no dinner because I wasn't up to par. what all this is stating is, have you ever witnessed a veteran do something to their children, but it's not out of an act of they don't know what's going on, it's because they have it's the unfortunate outlet. Does that make sense? Or am I confusing people?
You're referring to is like the trigger person, or that person that unfortunately is the one that takes the brunt of the emotion.
Yes.
You're saying? Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry. If I need to clarify, please tell. I speak Taterish very fluently.
That's okay. And we all call it something different, I think, in our own circle. You know, like around here for a while, it was the running joke: winner, winner, chicken dinner. I'm the trigger person today, you know? But, no, I understand what you're saying. Did you want to speak to that?
No.
No.
You got it.
I got it.
Yeah.
Can I back up just a little bit?
Yeah.
And add to what my brother there said, and it's talking about the divorce rate in the military. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's even more so an increased number for combat veterans in active duty versus, reserves or whatever else. I feel like with all of the things that they require, at minimum, processing out, if you are married, I think it should be provided like PTSD University or some sort of class or training like that. Because it is helpful. You understand, they teach you what triggers are and what to look for, and how, as a wife, you help your husband adjust back. That way, we're not creating friction. We're trying to find a balance to where I can be your helpmate. I can help you through it. Yes, I wasn't there and I don't understand. Okay, so where do we go from there? Because if I can be trained and I can learn how to better serve him and help him transition and lighten that load a little bit, then we have a fighting chance. And it's sad to me from the spouse side to know that they've had their use of him. Now he's not important enough that we want his marriage to survive for his mental health. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have that desire. Most spouses have that desire. They want to see their person succeed. I want to be your cheerleader, but I don't know how. And if you're having all these coping mechanisms that I don't understand, I'm going to take it as rejection and abandonment and not understand it. And then it's going to go to hell in a handbag real quick. I think the least they can do is make that kind of training available so that we don't have that winner, winner, chicken dinner trigger person that doesn't understand why they're being yelled at for something that they think is stupid or minute, because that trigger person is likely your wife or one of your kids, because they're the people closest to you.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. 100%, because not only are you trying to save not only are you trying to save the person from their mind, but you're also trying to save the marriage itself.
He was talking.
Yeah, there's a reason why you married him, for God's sakes. I mean, you love the guy. So yes, so yes, I agree. I definitely agree with that statement. There needs to be more support when it comes to the exiting process. And they're not let their, I honestly didn't know that was, that's what happens when you're returning from a deployment, is they give you that mental health eval. And if you say yes, then you're stuck here. So not doubting you, but if that is true, that's a big issue. You guys, so my stepfather did a total of 6 deployments, during his 16 years, excuse me. And so there's a lot that happens in those 6 deployments. So I agree there needs to be help on that. I had no idea that that is what actually happens. Give me just a moment here.
And I don't know if that happens with everybody.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's like across all branches and everything else. I'm just saying that was my personal experience that I went both times.
100%. No, I understand. How has your faith or spirituality played a role in your healing process? If it's not spiritual, what aspect was able to guide you in your healing process?
My kids
Okay. Can
gave me
you
a sense of something to protect, something to fight for daily, something to get up and keep going, something to show that I was okay, something to show that it was going to be okay, and to show true compassion and love to, that I was never shown, and to experience something so unexplainable that only a parent could really understand.
All right, Chief. Nah, I love that answer. That's a great answer, man. What about you, Randall?
So honestly, I will say this in a very, very passive way. I walked away from God well before I joined the military.
Okay.
Not that I didn't believe in him or that I didn't believe I was a Christian, but I wasn't walking in his footsteps.
Okay.
But as I've gotten out and as life continues to have happened, you know, gut checks have occurred and things have happened where it's like, I believe God has put me on this planet for a reason. If I was done with whatever he wanted me to do, I wouldn't be here right now. But things happen in life, and I believe that there are repercussions of sin, as I call it, and repercussions of, you know, good repercussions of following faithfully in what you believe in. I know maybe everyone here is not a Christian, and that's fine. But, as I've, realized the turns that I've taken and the doors that I've walked through and slowly have been brought back to this path of righteousness, I've noticed mental well-being, feeling of purpose, feeling of happiness, that sense of security in my personal life, because my life is not my own. At the end of the day, God's hands are the ones that guide me, and even though I'm still not perfect and I still have a lot to work on, I think my faith has helped secure me and knowing that my problems are his problems and he's going to take care of them. So even though I struggle day to day in some things, the big man upstairs has got my back, and he believes in everything and anything that is good. He believes in my mental well-being. He believes that I am of good purpose, and if he is with me, who can be against me at the end of the day? So I think that has helped, bring me up from a slumbering spot, and knowing that he is with me and that all my problems have been solved already and that I've already won. I think that brings mental, spiritual, and emotional relief to everything that happens in life, to some extent. Like, I think that spiritual pillar is one of the strongest ones that you can have. If you have a firm believing that the victory has already been won, that all the problems on earth that you are experiencing have already been overcome, then I think that does bring, less of a battle with your mental health and with your mental well-being.
No, 100%, man. I loved it. I love all of what you just said. You talk about those random gut checks that God gives you. Are you sure about that?
Dude, they hit hard sometimes. It's like you sit there and you're like, you make a decision and you're just like, geez, I messed up, or that is definitely not what I was supposed to do. Or sometimes it's the pre-gut check, like, are you sure you want to do this? And then you're over here like fighting your inner self, because I'm a firm believer that the curse of flesh is very pleasing. Everything about life that is quote unquote air quote wrong is usually enjoyable. Drugs make you feel good, alcohol can make you feel good, sex makes you feel good, all these things, but they don't necessarily make you whole and help you get through the struggles that you're going through.
Right.
I think that having, with my faith, I think God is what helps you get through that. And I believe having a spiritual aspect to your life is what actually does help you get through that. And the curse of flesh is just there to numb the feeling, if that makes sense.
100%. I know. I was gonna say. I remember having a conversation with an old man at one point, and we were talking about my smoking and whatnot, and I was, he told me, he said, that's funny. I don't know a single sin that's not desirable. And so that kind of took me a step back. I was like, okay. But yeah, sometimes God does need to have what is it? If you pray to God for strength, He will provide you. He'll show you patience. I think I have that right. So,
if you prayed God for strength, He will give you the opportunity to be strong.
Yeah.
That's what it is. If you ask for patience, He's gonna send situations into your life to teach you how to be patient.
Yeah.
He's not just gonna give you the patience. Shoot, man, that'd be too easy. That's cheat mode on.
One of our commenters said, the curse of flesh is extremely pleasing and difficult to overcome at times. Oh yeah, 100%. There's been many times where, one of the things I struggle with as a big dude is, I'm not exactly Mr. Desirable, and so sometimes I struggle with acquiring personal relationships, with being able to learn, being able to have a partner in life. And so one of the things that I struggle with is seeing all the pretty girls, seeing all the, the music videos and all that other stuff that's on the web. And when it gets into your head and you start wanting, and then you start feeling very lonely because you feel like you're not worth a damn, pardon my French, but that's pretty much what it is. And so when you finally say to yourself, when I get to those dark times, when I'm really in my mind, I do start stating Christ is Lord. And I start just repeating that in my head over and over and over and over until the devil finally backs off. A lot of people, to this day, don't believe that, the devil roams the world. He ain't gonna, the way he likes to play is, if you're already in turmoil of sin and you're not wanting to change your ways, he's going to leave you alone. No, keep him that way. He is perfect. He's fine. He's just fine. But then the moment you try to back off, that's when he's going to have a problem. Go ahead, Randall.
So I have, he used to be my youth pastor. He became a cop for a while, and then now he's no longer doing the cop life. But he used to say, or he said to me one time, because we had the conversation, are you actually saved? Or is your well-being? He said that, the devil's a powerful person. He will make things happen to keep you blinded. He has the ability to influence things in your life to keep you blinded from what you should and should be doing, or what God's calling you to do. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, when it comes to that, there's a pit of sorrow waiting for you. My dad always told me, do not put your faith in man. It doesn't matter how nice they are, how pretty they are, how strong they are, how financially wealthy they are. They will always let you down. And I think a lot of people put too much faith in man, and they get let down at the end of the day because we're all imperfect. None of us are perfect. We all have wounds, scars, tarnished records, and I think that correlates back to, this being able to rebuild your mental stability is, we get out of the military, our faith in the military was strong because it was absolute, like what we had was absolute.
Okay.
And then we come into the civilian sector, and none of it is absolute. It is as weak as the twigs that hold up a fire. Like as soon as it burns, it's going to fall to pieces. And we still do that because that's what we have been ingrained to do. We put our faith in one another, and everyone's just going to let you down at the end of the day. I think that's where, that spirituality, you have to have a higher calling of some sort. Doesn't have to be God, because I'm not going to sit here and tell people you have to pick and choose Christianity, but mine is God. You have to have something higher to believe in to be able to push through.
Right, 100%, man. What about you over there, Mr. Jeremiah?
Oh, geez. You guys pretty much covered it all.
You did do a good job.
Yeah. It's like, how do you top that?
Tough action.
Right. So all through the military, my faith was pretty strong. Was good. I mean, I guess as good as you can expect it to be.
Right.
But to be honest, here, so this is part of my testimony now, because you're saying how it's affected me now, or how it's affecting me, my faith, with being back in civilian life. So, I used to have nightmares on the probably 3 to 4 times or more a week, like violent nightmares, pretty much attacking my wife in sleep, trying to choke her out, just bad stuff.
Right.
And to the point to where, like, she'd tell me about it, and I'd be like, okay, I'm sleeping on the couch. I'm not sleeping in bed. I'd sleep on the floor next to her. I'd be like, no, I'm not getting in bed with you. But it's crazy because, I got put on medication from the VA, had a service dog that would sleep in between us and would try to wake me up, or would try to wake her up, or pretty much take the brunt of it whenever I would be freaking out. But so I've been what has it been, 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
About 3 years since coming to the Torah, and with that being, and once I fully committed to that and committed to eating clean and everything else, I haven't had one nightmare.
You experienced some deliverance at Sukkot without even realizing that's what was happening.
Yeah. So that's definitely been a big thing for me with my walk and everything else. So, but yeah, that's about all that I got to add with that, because the other guy knocked it out of the park.
No, I got you, man. Holly, what about you? I understand, I really love talking with somebody that's also fitted my shoes as well. That's why I wanted you on here as well, is because I want to understand from the spouse's perspective too, of what you actually go through as well. It's not only a spiritual warfare battle with him, but it's also a spiritual warfare battle with you. Because you question, not saying you specifically, but a lot of spouses question whether or not, do I have the strength to do this? Can I actually mentally have the focus to help them? And then also the same exact emotions of self-worth, or are you not beautiful enough? Are you, you start asking those questions in your head. Meanwhile, you got the devil over here going, I'll just sign the paper.
Right. No, that's so true. I will say I had an advantage that most wives don't, though, for two reasons. One, my dad was a Vietnam veteran, a combat, he had the combat PTSD. So all my life, I had been trained without realizing I was being trained to be his wife, because I can pick up on triggers. I know how to handle situations. They come natural to me, but they wouldn't come natural to most wives in my situation. When my dad would have violent nightmares, my mom's tiny. I'm almost 6 foot tall. I'm a big girl. I can handle my own. My mom would wake me up to go handle my dad and wake him up because she's tiny. And being in law enforcement, I think was another advantage for me. I have a law enforcement background, so I have pretty big shoulders. You can call me whatever you want. It's not going to penetrate. I'm not going to take it personal. And when you're the trigger person, you're going to take a lot of verbal abuse in the beginning, because these guys are coming home and not having a healthy outlet. So they bottle so much up that they're going to explode. And if you're the trigger person for that day, guess what? It's word vomit all over you, and you're just going to have to clean it up and truck on. A lot of women aren't cut out for that because they have never been taught the tools to be. And some just don't want to. They're like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm out.
Right.
And that's true. That's not a default mode. That's not a normal scenario for a husband and wife to have to go through. And I understand it. It's one of our passions to mentor and counsel young adults when they come back, to help them and give them these tools to give their give their marriage the benefit of not being that statistic, giving them a fighting chance. And I believe, all of that it goes back to our faith system. I truly believe that the reason that we have made it and we aren't a statistic is because I've been groomed my whole life to be his wife. Lucky you.
No, I definitely love hearing, definitely your point of view on that, because, you were talking about coming into Torah. For everybody else to kind of give perspective, me and Holly, as well as Jeremiah, we all follow Torah together. And so I may not have reached out to her yet, but she's one of those people that if I have a question where I need help as far as spiritual warfare, then she's somebody that I can message. Coming from when I started walking Torah 4 years ago, it was a very powerful moment, because I had lost a lot of stuff.
Right.
Back in 2020, I was a debt collector for one of the biggest banks in the United States. I was a credit supervisor. I had money. I had a house to myself. I had any kind of technical gadgets that I wanted. I was also saving up for a vehicle to buy out brand new. And then when the COVID crisis happened and everything shut down, I lost all of that, because we got a communication from the office that said, hey, we don't feel comfortable. I don't blame them, but we don't feel comfortable y'all working from home and having access to everybody's social security numbers, date of births, and all that stuff. So they literally shut down the office. And over the course of time, it went from 15, everybody knows how it went. It went from 15 days to stop the wave to, quarantine for the next 7
12
months. Yeah. And my savings, they soaked up very quickly. I was spending roughly about $1,800 a month on bills. And that includes like everything under the sun, food, insurance, just anything anything to take care of things. And so, when that dried up, eventually I lost where I had to live, where I was living. I got evicted. Because, we had the eviction moratorium, but at the same time, I looked at it of when the moratorium is over, I still have to be hit with that balance. I'm not going to be able to pay that balance. So I'd rather just go ahead and call it quits than be faced with even more debt at the end of the moratorium. And so when I arrived in Sneedville, Tennessee, and that's when I first met somebody that walked Torah. His name was Moses Grijalva. He also was a combat medic. I believe he was a combat medic. He worked in the medical field for the Marines. I think he was a surgeon, actually. I just can't remember like what his actual MOS and all that was. But he introduced me to the way of Torah. And we had our questions on why do I believe the way I do. And then when I went to Sukkot and I started experiencing the feast and I started eating clean, all that's, I don't mean to go on a whole Torah rant here, but finally having the spiritual backing and having that quote unquote armor of God to help fight the spiritual battles that you face, you have no idea what battles you are actually conquering because the Lord Almighty is by your side. But anyway, see, here I am going on my little podium here. So before I wrap this up here, because we've definitely talked about a lot. We've talked about the experiences of what happens when you have these mental issues. We talked about what support is needed. We've talked about the needs of what support isn't there that needs to be there. And we've also talked about many coping areas to help reach out for support. I do want to advise here, for those of you that are watching us and you are a vet and you're looking for a gaming community, I want to go ahead and give a proud shout out to the Lethal Mental gaming community that I'm a part of. It's a gaming group specifically for veterans where you can connect, chat, and support each other. As well as a couple of faith-based support groups. It is definitely Camp Yeshua, as well as Lion and Lamb Ministries. There's so many people I could call out right now. There's Moses Grijalva, there's Tab Bregg, there's Miss Holly Smith here, there's Brian Serrano. Like, there are so many people I could list off here. If you are in need of wanting support and you are asking and you don't know who to reach out to connect with, please private message me on any of my social medias and I will point you to the right direction. If I don't have the answer, I have people who are licensed and standby, who are licensed and practice in this type of field on standby, and we are here to help you. As I said, and I'll say many, many times and many future episodes again, the goal of this podcast is not only to be a way to channel our anger and channel our fear, but the goal of this podcast is to be a lighthouse for those who are calling out in the darkness. I am here for you. The people here on this panel are here for you. Do not think you are alone because we are searching for you specifically. at this time, I want to open up the floor to any of my viewers, anybody that's watching us. I'm gonna give you guys a couple of moments here. If there's a question you would like to ask the panel, or if there's anything you would like to ask me specifically, I like to kind of open up the floor for any viewers. As well as while we're waiting for responses, out of you three, do y'all have any questions you would like to ask me, since I've put y'all on the grill for the last hour and a half here?
No, I've been pretty nosy on you. I think I'm okay.
Don't be shy now. Don't be shy.
I don't really have any questions, but I think it's important for people to know that people like you matter as well. Because even though you don't have the hands-on experience of being active duty, you've been enlightened by the lifestyle that comes with it. And sometimes some people have a harder life than others. Some people have a breeze. They serve 20-30 years. They hit all their highlights in life. They get to go back and talk about, oh yeah, I traveled the world, and they retire happy. I mean, they miss the military, but they don't really walk out damaged. And I hate to use the word damage because damage makes you feel like something's wrong with you. Even people who struggle, it's not that something's wrong with you. It's just people have not supported you to the level that you deserve. I feel like that's the best way to put at it. Your experiences have not been nurtured the way they need to be nurtured for you to be able to continue walking a healthy mental life. So
100%.
thank you, Tater, for definitely hosting this, because even if they didn't hear it now, if someone comes across this video on YouTube or whatever, I think it's going to be the lighthouse,
right?
The lighthouse.
And that's my goal with this whole thing is, I may not be able to get this podcast off the ground. I may not, this could be just in the void of the web forever. But this is for those people that somehow, if I come up on a random search history, they can come in and chime in and see this. And that's the hidden goal behind all of this. So I really appreciate what you stated.
Well, don't you claim and come into an agreement with that this may not ever stuff. You have a calling. It's been confirmed. Don't make me come over there. We've done this bush hunt.
Okay, we have a question ready to go. So from Miss Aravan, love you, honey. Miss Aravan, she asks, when it comes to the spiritual battles we are facing, how do you recognize a spiritual attack in the moment?
Can I start? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that I've noticed is it directly conflicts your beliefs. That is the first indicator for me. It is something that either is morally, emotionally sabotaging to who you are as a person. And it's not always an easy decision, because there's always a decision in a spiritual battle. It's you're provided with an option, a path to do what is right or to do what is not right. And I think that when it is a spiritual attack, that you are being questioned on your faith. And both sides of the spectrum, sometimes taking the right path isn't always the fun path. So it could seem more fun. It could be a hard decision to make, but it is always going to question your belief if it is a spiritual attack. It's going to question who you are as a person.
Okay. 100%. I like that.
I'll chime in
Yes.
if I can.
Yes.
So teach a lot of kids, so I'm going to break it down Barney style because that's how I do things. You have 3 sources of thoughts that come into your mind, right? One is yourself, because we all have will, right? It's our flesh. The enemy, and our Heavenly Father. And his word says, test all things. So if I am asking, is this a spiritual attack? I have to ask myself 3 questions, and that's it, to figure it out. Is this something I'm doing to myself? Is this from the Father? Well, usually you can tell right away. Like, that's the easy question. Is this from the Father? So when that's a no, then I'm left with 2 options. This is something I'm thinking up out of my own flesh, or it's a spiritual attack. And then the next phase is, okay, how do I handle it? And that's usually the hardest part. But figuring it out isn't as hard as we sometimes think it is. It's 3 questions to figure it out. And that's how I teach kids to recognize it. Go through this process, test all things, like he says.
So, I ain't gonna say no names. I'm gonna stay as oblivious as I can, because believe it or not, they may be actually watching right now. As you have probably seen during this podcast, I've been looking at my phone and responding. I fully believe, as we're having this podcast, it's funny that Iravan asked that question, because as we talk here, and as we talk about the spiritual aspect of God himself, and we talk about the many things of just the hidden warfare of things, it's crazy how spiritual warfare does happen. I'm not afraid of the devil. Christ is Lord. And so for somebody to berate me, I'll say privately, but to berate me privately and try to use this podcast as a weapon against me, I'm not afraid. I'm going to kind of just just kind of keep it there, because I do want to keep, and I'll be respectful and keep anonymously. But this podcast is not your weapon. This is not your podcast. I do appreciate the assistance that has been provided, and I'm sorry that I may not be able to help you in the current crisis that you're in, because I can't just drop everything at the dime of a hat. But that does not mean you can turn your weapons at your sights on me and treat me as if I'm the enemy. I understand that that's oblivious to everybody else, but I do apologize. I'm just realizing the question that Iravan asked, and then putting it into perspective, and just realize the global scope of things.
I'm tracking what you're laying down now. I was at first, I was like, oh. Wait.
So, I'm gonna just let it be right there. But to actually,
I love you too much to weaponize you, sir. I love you too much.
No, Mama, just let it be right there. To actually answer the question, Iravan, when it comes to spiritual battles we are facing, how do you recognize spiritual attack in the moment? I'm gonna let you know 100%. If you, when you speak God into existence, the moment you speak God into existence, and you identify that Christ is Lord, and you identify that you're not going to tolerate the other things, the devil will try to find other things to pick at you, whether you think it is or not. It can be family. It could be a dear friend that you talk to every single day. It could be as simple as, you know what, I really want to go make that lasagna, and then the lasagna doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to be. I'm just throwing it out there, you know. It could be these small. The thing about what I'm getting at, though, is it could be the smallest thing to everybody else, but it's the biggest. It means so much to you internally. I went to the store. I went there and I really looked up the recipe. I studied it. I loved the cook that made the recipe. And then turns out the lasagna is not what it looks like on the TV channel. Sorry, folks. It comes out in random moments. Let's see. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's that shaving cream, whipped cream that they use to make it look so perfect on that pumpkin pie.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those things where in order for you to get it, you gotta sacrifice on a blood moon on the 7th day of the week, and it can't the sky has to be clear. There can't be a cloud in the distance. You can't use white candles. You got to use orange candles, and it can't be autumn orange. It has to be velvet orange, even though they're the same thing.
And Yoder's cat has to be there.
And Yoder's cat has to be there. Yeah. Irvin says, got the amount of times I've jumped into something due to an intrusive thought and then ended up mad or disappointed is insane. Honey, I've gotten disappointed over hush puppies that didn't turn out right. I promise you.
Testimony moment. So I have a short trigger, to be honest. Like I struggle a lot, and this is just me being honest as a human being. You know, I call myself an emotional jelly bean to my wife, because sometimes it's just like something is presented to me the wrong way. And I feel like she just pulled out every nuclear weapon in the U.S. arsenal and shot it at me. And I'm like ready to go. Intrusive thoughts are dangerous. And one thing I want to say on that is sometimes you got to self-check yourself. You know, look at what's being said, look at what's happening in the moment, and breathe and think, if Jesus was in the room, what would you do or say? And I promise you, like I brought that up to my wife last night, and I felt like a 5-year-old because we got in a little bit of an argument. But walk into a situation, especially when you have a thought of anger or frustration or unsure about what it is. Just be like, hey, if Jesus was standing right there looking at you when you were about to make your decision or say what you're going to say, what would you do then? And if it's not what you think you're going to do, then I would take a step back and recalibrate those barrels to shoot something else, not something mean or something wrong.
As I like to say, show a little grace whenever you can. Do we have any?
I wasn't laughing at you. Look, I don't know if you saw what was happening over there like 2 seconds ago. The little kitten, like we saved this little kitten. She was almost skin and bones when we saved her. But she was over there fighting with the big cat, and she was literally just stood up and looked at him and just said, "Pop, pop, 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 pop," and then ran back over here like she did nothing and laid down. I'm like, that was rabid. That's why I was laughing. I could see it out of the corner of my eye because I'm watching you, and you're right here to the left of me. And she's down there fighting. Sorry, I'll shut up.
You're fine. Do we have any other questions from our viewers? I don't want to take up. I'll allow one more question to be asked because I don't want to take up too much more.
Ooh, I do want to tell you and your husband this. So you stated that you liked watching him play certain video games, correct? There is a free game. I believe it's free. It's on Xbox. It's called It Takes Two. And what it is it's a story of two, like, have you ever heard of the movie where the little figurines survive and they're like yarn? They're made out of yarn and everything. And it's like 9 or something like that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about. It
Yeah.
is a very, very good game for couples to play. So it's very peaceful, it's very relaxed, and it's a walkthrough story. So I just figured that I'd throw that out there for y'all, coming from a gaming creator that streams content and stuff.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome.
She doesn't have
I
hand-eye
super suck.
coordination.
He's not lying. We all have our giftings, and that's not mine.
If you want to watch something funny, watch her try to play any kind of game. It's hilarious.
You should come holler at your boy that's an assistant for a TikTok agency. I'll get you streaming it. We'll get a laugh. Come on.
Oh.
So I got a question. Are there teachings? This is from Lego here. Are there teachings or practices within your faith that have helped you process and cope with your trauma from your time in the military?
Yes.
You want to kind of divulge into that just a little bit?
No, I don't.
I got you.
Okay, so yeah, actually this just hit me when I was at Sukkot here just a couple weeks ago. Hit me like a ton of bricks. We were talking about, during the feasts and everything, that you were to bring in the strangers, the beggar, the less fortunate, everything into your gates with them and share the feast and bless them. And it doesn't matter if they're of a different faith than yours or not as blessed as you. And it doesn't matter. You should share it with everyone that you can, no matter what they are or who they are. And that kind of stuck the chord with me because I can be judgmental sometimes with less fortunate, and I shouldn't be that way, but it's just, I've worked for everything that I've ever had. I've never begged for nothing, and I think that's how it should be. I think you should, if you want something, you go out and get it. You don't rely on somebody else giving it to you. But that's kind of softened my heart in that aspect. And also, like the same thing with different religions. But really hard time with other, like, especially people from the Islamic faith and everything. And it's like, hey, maybe you should try to talk to them, or instead of just instantly judging them on who they are and their beliefs, you should still try to show a little love, or as Tater says, a little grace. So, yeah.
Which is hard when you've been shot by the same group of people for 2 years.
Yeah.
But you're growing.
Yeah, trying.
You're trying.
It's baby
Right.
steps.
No,
Yeah.
right. It's. I find it really ironic that you talked about that because, when it comes to a lot of those people, not all of them are hostile.
Right.
Is the perspective I'll play it. Not all of them are hostile. A lot of the people over there are hostile, and that's what you're so used to. And so when you're used to it for so long, that's just what gets ingrained. And so when you're over here, and it's no longer hostile territory, then it's kind of hard to not let that be ingrained anymore. It's hard to put the gun down.
Right.
Right. Well, I mean, it's self-preservation.
Yes.
Assume the worst and hope, right?
Yes. So I definitely appreciate your answer on that.
Yeah, she's a smart one.
Yeah. What about you, Randall?
So I actually wanted to say something on his aspect. You know, I struggle with honestly apologetics sometimes. You know, when I sit with people who either believe differently or don't believe at all, and they like to ask questions, you know, how do you prove that you are right? How do you know you're correct? Or, you know, those who go directly against what I believe, you know, like they know that, you know, they have to believe it because they're the exact opposite. They just believe
And I believe,
in
all of that it goes
the
back to
enemy side. But one thing I look at is, you know, in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, it says that my grace is all you need, for my power is greatest when you are weakest. And, you know, when I struggle with things, you know that it is not my strength that carries me. It's not my well-being or who I am or what I'm good at that allows me to work through and talk to people, or, you know, spread the word, give insight. It's God's strength in me that gives me the ability to move forward. And I do struggle with that, you know. Someone asks me a question, well, if your God is so pure and so just, then why does he allow X, Y, and Z to happen? You know? And that question is so hard for me, because it's not that I don't know the answer, but it's like the answer in the eyes of people who don't believe is very open-ended, you know? I believe that God has given us free will to live our lives as we choose. You know, we can go believe in the flying spaghetti monster. We can believe that aliens and stuff are real, you know, and who knows, they may be. I think that God has the ability to do whatever he wanted to do, but everyone believes what they want to believe. But whenever it says, you know, how do you know yours is true? Well, I'm the only faith that I have been taught or heard of where the progenitor's not in a box. You know, he is not in a box. There are no bones to be found, no tomb that's closed. And so I believe that, you know, you look at Buddhists, Islam, all of these other ones, their prophets are dead. You know, they worship a dead progenitor, which it's great. You know, you believe what you want to believe. I will share the word of God. It's not my place to come on this earth and force it down your throat and say you have to choose this. You know, that is not what we were put here for. We were put on this earth to love one another and to share God's love with one another. And through that love, they will see. So, you know, when it comes to one thing, I'm like you. I definitely feel like I've had to work my ass off for everything that I've had in my life. I really, you know, struggle with people who just want things handed to them on a silver platter. You know, in some aspects, I think things need to be handed to individuals. They need help. But, you know, you got to also want help. You got to put the effort forward, saying, hey, I'm ready to turn my life around or get out of this rut that I'm in and take one step and start taking steps forward, even if they're small steps. You know, a step is still a step in my book. And, you know, you got to work for what you want. You know, Jesus carried his own cross up the hill to be crucified on. You know, it's not like they just had it sitting up there waiting for him, and he was tortured the whole way up that hill. So, you know, if he's working to save us, we can work to save ourselves in that aspect, you know? So that's
100%.
just my personal belief. I know that's a little different, little deep in some aspects, but
Hey man, that's perfectly okay, man. I definitely love the answer 100%. Sometimes we have to carry our own cross. for my answer on that question, I think the biggest reflection is Day of Atonement. Day of Atonement gives me an opportunity. So for those of you that don't know about Day of Atonement, we in the Torah believe, I believe it's called Yom Kippur. If I have that right, it's Hebrew in Hebraic language. So Yom Kippur means Day of Atonement. What that means is it's a day where we can finally let the sins of our flesh finally be pinned, and we can not only crucify ourselves of the things that hold us in anguish, but it's also an opportunity for us to let go and forgive. As I've said in my past episodes, you may not be able to talk to the person that you wish to seek forgiveness from. You may not be able to, whether they be dead, they may be alive, they may have a hatred for you, or they've blocked you on social media. The Day of Atonement is there for you to finally pin that down, forgive yourself, and move forward and walk in the light of God. Not to get extremely churchy up in here, but that's what it is. So Day of Atonement is one of the beliefs that is one of the things in our belief that I definitely stand by. The other thing is definitely, just like everybody else, the answer of Sukkot. The Feast of Tabernacles is what Sukkot is. It's the Feast of Feasts. It's the time where we can finally celebrate with our brothers and sisters. It is a time where we can finally we've already atoned for the things that we are sorry for, and it's now time to celebrate with Christ. And so that's the whole gist of Sukkot. That's why we call it the extended Thanksgiving, because we go camping for it. We go depending on who you're Sukkoting with, they do a whole bunch of events. My people, we have like 4 or 5 smokers going on at the same time, with 7 briskets in each smoker. I mean, it's pretty out there, and we bring anybody and everybody that is wanting to come. That's coming back from what Jeremiah said. We bring the stranger, we bring the weak, we bring the old, we bring the sick. Anybody that's not a Torah believer. That is the perfect time where you get to be introduced into us, and so. Yeah, it gets wild. And then finally, a lot of things that the other holiday, I wouldn't say the holiday, but the feast that we go over is Yom Torah, the Feast of Trumpet. The whole gist of Yom Torah is to finally shout all over the mountains and all over the world to hear the voice of God, to be able to hear him calling for you. My grandmother, she used to write in these little journals all over. She what I loved about her writing is, of course, with her being my grandmother, she's from the 40s and whatnot. But what I loved about her writing is she had I believe they call it doctrine cursive. It's not really taught anymore. It's like the old-fashioned cursive writing. And that's what I loved about her writing. But one of the things that when she passed away in 2014, we went through a lot of her stuff to, the process of, moving things. What are we keeping? What are we donating? What needs to get thrown in the trash? And I came across one of her journals. And it was a journal entry from the day the Challenger exploded. And what I find so crazy about this little entry is I've read it so many times that I can remember it piece by piece. But it said, the gist of it says, today was a very sad day. From Today is the day the Challenger exploded. 7 lives, 7 souls passed on to the great beyond, to the heaven that we will know in the future. As we sit here and as you watch on the news, they said you could hear the sound of the explosion from Cape Canaveral, Florida, all the way to Dallas, Texas. For those of you in retrospect, that's a total of 4 to 5 states wide. She simply stated in the journal, she stated, now, what I sit here in disbelief as I sit here and think of my mind, a simple explosion was able to be heard 5 states wide, and it was extremely loud and deafening to some. Wonder what it may be when the day that we hear the sound of Gabriel's trumpet, when it is sounding all around the entire world. And so I use that as just a way to quantify, not to be experty here, but a way to, quantify exactly when you're able to hear the voice of God calling towards you. Iravan had replied, she said, I have faith in the Bible, and my faith the same way you believe in and have faith in science both take faith. Getting in a car takes faith that you won't get in a crash. Yeah, 100%. I've always said at the beginning of science, you're an atheist. At the end of science, you're a believer. Anyway, I do apologize. I've definitely kept these lovely people in here too long, so unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap up the episode here. Does anybody have any closing remarks before we wrap this baby up?
I love you. You do have a calling for this. I don't want to hear that negativity come out of that beautiful face again. Look, man, you are your own worst critic, and that is a true statement. If I would have shut down, I would not be where I am. I would not be able to create people's dreams. I would not be able to, change my life by changing other people's lives. Like, you're here for a reason, just like every single one of us are. And I hope by today that we can all stay in contact and maybe I'll see you guys stop in the channel one day and we can all kick it like a hare in a biscuit trying to find its way out of yeast. You know what I'm saying? I love every one of you and I appreciate the honor of just being here, man. Like the privilege, when you asked me to do it, I was jumping with joy. I was like, oh, is it today? Is it today? When is it?
I gotcha.
I just appreciate it.
100%, man. I was definitely happy to have you here this evening. All right.
I apologize. I think he was wanting to do this last Thursday, but I had asked him to hold off because I had already devoted the evening to my wife and I really wanted to be present as well. So I do apologize for the pushback on this. I was like, can you do Sunday at 7? And then I totally forgot that this is my wife's mother's birthday. So I kind of scheduled on top of something, but it's just one of those things. One thing I do want to say on a closing remark is hey, Tater, thank you for having me. Absolutely. I enjoy being able to talk about things, at least give my perspective. And for those who are watching this or will watch this, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask questions. People are out there willing to listen. Tater will literally sit in Discord or in a call with you for hours on end and just listen to the problems or situations that you were going through. He has a lot of good people that he is connected with that can also help. Some of these people are licensed therapists. As I said, help is out there. You just have to ask for it. or you have to at least reach out and let us know. I'm always an ear. I think everyone in here is an ear, willing to be an ear. And if we can't give you the answers directly, I know we're all equipped to point you in the right direction. So, thank you.
All right.
What he said.
Good job, guys.
Keep my email handy. If there's any wives out there that I can give some advice to or just lend an ear. I am not a licensed therapist, but I have life application, and sometimes that's more important. Not discrediting licensed therapists. They all have their place. I'm just saying this is a very wise situation, and I've been living it for at least 15 years. And we've figured out a lot of the do's and don'ts. So if I can save you some pain and give you, some time on your clock to figure it out, we would love to help you with that.
So I definitely appreciate everybody coming out here this evening. Please remember, guys, if you want to watch our future episodes of the Tater-Talks podcast, I am live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We are live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. If you found today's episode helpful, please share it. Share it with a veteran in your life. Share it to your friends. Share it to your family. Thank you for your service to all vets out there. Without y'all's sacrifice, we would not live in the beautiful freedom that we have today. Some sacrificed some, and then some also sacrificed all. So I wanted to commemorate this episode specifically to you guys. As always, it is your wonderful host, Tater-Talks. As always, we do thank you for watching the Tater-Talks podcast. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll see you guys on Thursday. Stand by.
I'm gonna go not get murdered or get murdered. We'll see. If you're up for a little bit, I'll hit you up in a